Welcome to my 2020 Top 10 Most Capable Expeditionary Warfare Nations. What is expeditionary warfare? It's a combination of amphibious warfare, which is ground forces, air forces, naval forces. Um, it allows nations, say you don't have complete air dominance, and you just can't fly troops in, or you just can't put ships on a boat and take them off on a dock. These guys actually have to, hey, the other country owns the territory. We have to land our forces. We have to fight for every inch, create a beachhead, while simultaneously a lot of times we may have air superiority, we may not. So we may have to fight for that too. Same thing with space. Um, this is a combination. Today's modern expeditionary forces use a combination of equipment from large amphibious warships to fairly large landing ships to landing crafts, amphibious armored vehicles, um, hovercrafts, helicopters, tilt rotor, uh, basically helicopters, but plane-like things. They use all these. They use the helicopters for both transportation and air support, knocking out tanks, not knocking out fighting positions, and they carry multitude of different forces. Some are as large as the United States, where they have fighter jets. Some quite fairly small. Some have the capabilities to deploy around the world. Some only have the capabilities to deploy basically off their own shores. Um, some ground rules. These are just my thoughts. Please comment below. You can organize them how you want to organize them, reorganize, rank them how you want. Capabilities are just as important as overall size. So you could be a smaller force, but your force is actually more capable than a larger force. So you'll be ranked higher. I guess you'd have a lower number, which would make you ranked higher. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Uh, at number 10, Taiwan. The naval forces, they've got one LSD for the amphibious warfare capabilities, warships anyway. They have 8 landing ships in the form of LSTs. Um, they have 44 landing crafts, 2 different types. Their Marine force, their ground forces, they have 10,000 Marines, broke up into 3 brigades. They have over 200 AAVs, which are amphibious assault vehicles. Their max capabilities. Now, max capabilities means the capabilities of the amphibious ships to actually move the expeditionary forces from the sea to shore. They have about 2,400 troops can be moved at one time, a brigade minus. Hope 3 helicopters, 96 tanks, 46 infantry fighting vehicles, or armored personnel carriers. They would use a combination of 5 to 21 landing crafts. Next up, Indonesia. Some people are surprised they're on here, but a nation that's made up of islands, guess what? Needs an expeditionary capability. As their recent past has shown, things aren't always smooth in Indonesia. It's one of the largest populated countries in the world with a ton of different cultures, ton of different languages, different ethnic groups. So sadly, they've had some conflicts internally and externally. We'll start off with their naval forces. The amphibious warships, they have 5 LPDs, uh, landing landing transportation docks. They also have 72 landing crafts. Now, their marine forces, like I said, are fairly large for the overall size of their military. They have 20,000 Marines, broke up into 4 different brigades. They have 60 hopeless tanks. They're old, but for their purposes, they fit their need. They have 114 infantry fighting vehicles, another 100 and some armored personnel carriers. They only have 10 amphibious armored vehicles. They do have 50 towed artillery pieces, 21 multiple rocket launch systems, and 5 ADA systems. Their max capability, they can move almost 5,000 troops, about 1 brigade at a time. Also, they have to do any Expeditionary Forces. It's limited to basically their region, but there are few and far countries that actually have the capability for expeditionary warfare. Number 8, Australia. They have a very modern, well-trained force. They've used it, like we just talked about Indonesia. They've actually used it in regards to Indonesia, and they've done a lot of joint training with a lot of different Pacific neighbors. Like I said, they have a well-equipped force, well-trained. We'll start with the naval forces. They have, for the amphibious warships, they have 2 landing docks, 1 landing ship dock for a total of 3. They have a total of 32 landing crafts. Their ground forces, they have 1 amphibious battalion. Their max capabilities, they could technically move 2 battalions at a time, 24 modern tanks. They've got all M1A1s, 200 infantry fighting vehicles / armored personal carriers, 17 helicopters, and they would have to use 10 landing crafts. Well, they can max carry 10 landing crafts at a time. Like I said, this is a well-trained, well-equipped force with a lot of experience, well-led. Number 7, Brazil, the superpower of South America. They actually have a fairly robust expeditionary force capability. They have 2 amphibious warships. One is a landing transportation dock, and the other one is a landing transportation helicopter carrier, basically. They have 3 landing ships, smaller versions of amphibious warfare ships that really can't travel overseas. They have 16 landing crafts. Then Marines, once again, they have a fairly large size Marines with 16,000 Marines, which is broke up into 1 division headquarters, but they only have 1 Marine brigade itself. I guess in case of emergencies, they would have to raise either conscripts or have volunteers join to flesh out the rest of their forces. They have 18 helicopters, 60 armored personal carriers, 47 AAVs, 40 towed artillery pieces, 6 multiple rocket launchers, and 6 ADA systems. Now, their max capabilities, at any one time, they could put ashore almost 2,300 troops, which break up into 2 battalions plus the support assets, 32 tanks, an additional 40 infantry fighting vehicles or APCs, 42 helicopters. Like I said, they have that. They have a lot of helicopter capabilities with that landing transportation helicopter carrier. 16 landing crafts. This is a well-balanced force that's equipped fairly well, trained training pretty good. Like I said, they're the superpower of South America. They've never really had to use it. Hopefully they don't. But they do have a great capability. Next up at number 6, Russia. Let's take some people by surprise. People would think that Russia, with their huge marine force, would be ranked higher. But remember, I said capabilities is just as important, if not more important, than size. We'll start with their their naval forces. The reason they're ranked so low, they only have 20 landing ships. Now, they haven't broke up between their 4 fleets, and they're good for defense and for local operations, but this is expeditionary warfare. Russia really doesn't have an offensive capability. They really can't move any forces. They can't project forces at a long distance. LSTs are good for offshore, but long-range travel, can't really build an expeditionary strike force around them. They're not really ocean-going ships like that. They have 20 of them, like I said, but they just basically ships right offshore, drop them off in the Baltic, Black Sea. They have some in the North Sea, I guess not North Sea, and the Northern Fleet, I guess, to move 20, 30 miles and hit Norway or one of Norway's islands in the Arctic, and that's pretty much it. In the Pacific, it's I doubt they would even make it to Japan. They have 28 landing crafts. Like I said, they have a huge ground force. Their Marines, 35,000, broke up into 3 corps, 1 recon brigade, 4 motorized infantry brigades, 7 Marine brigades, for a total of 12 total Marine maneuver brigades. They have 1 surface-to-surface missile brigade, 2 field artillery brigades, 5 88 brigades. Like I said, they've got plenty of equipment. The Marine Force is one of probably the second most powerful or third Marine Force in the world. They've got 200 modern tanks, another 100 capable tanks, over almost 1,100 infantry fighting vehicles, another 400 APCs. They've got 163 self-propelled artillery pieces, 100 towed artillery pieces, 54 multiple rocket launches, 12 surface missiles, and 190 ADA for air defense. The problem is their max capability between 4,100 to 4,400 troops at a time, about 1 brigade at a time with some support elements. 80 to 243 tanks, depending on the configuration of the force, because they could also bring infantry fighting vehicles APC anywhere from 0 to 300, almost 400 at a time, but only 1 helicopter. So they still lack a lot. They don't really have the ability to carry air support. Like I said, for as big as their Marine forces are, they really can't land them at one time. They don't really have the ability to power reject it at a great distance. But locally, mostly, I gotta say, most of the Marine forces they would use those for ground fighting against NATO or China. Next up, 5, India. We'll start with their naval forces. They have 1 amphibious warfare ship, a landing transportation dock. They have 8 landing ships, an additional 12 landing crafts. Their Marine force consists of 2,000 Marines, broke up into 1 Marine brigade. Their max capability, they can move about 4,000 troops, a brigade plus with supporting elements. Depending on the configuration of the ground forces, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, APCs, anywhere from 0 to 78 tanks, 0 to 55 IFVs or APCs. They can also carry 6 helicopters. Depending on the configuration, once again, of the package for landing crafts, they can land anywhere. Max capability is 9 to 10 landing crafts. They are also expanding their capabilities against potential operations anywhere in the Indian Ocean, or even against China, definitely against Pakistan. They have some very modern equipment, a capable force, and this is a force that's continually getting better, and they're definitely trying to be the dominant force not only in the Indian Ocean, but also in the Indian Pacific region and on the African coast. Next up at number 4, the Republic of Korea. Some people will think, wow, this is a high ranking for them. But they've greatly improved their capabilities. They've got modern ships, modern equipment, and the scary part, well, I shouldn't say scary, but I'll say it. The scary part is they're building their own equipment. They've got a great naval capabilities. They have a total of 5 amphibious warfare ships, 1 landing dock helicopter, 4 landing transportation docks for a total of 5 ships, 4 landing ships, 30 landing crafts, a large capable Marine force, 29,000 troops, broke up into 2 division headquarters, 7 Marine brigades, 1 field artillery brigade. They have 50 modern tanks, the K1A1s, 50 hopeless tanks, M48s. I just got to retire them. They have 166 AAVs. Their max capabilities at any one time, if they max all their forces, they could land 3,100 troops at a time, 1 brigade at a time, 98 tanks, 32 infantry fighting vehicles or APCs, 22 helicopters for air support or air transportation, using a total of 14 landing crafts. Once again, this is a very modern force that's only improving their capabilities. not only against North Korea, but potentially against Russia, China, or even Japan. That's right, they still have guns that face out. Well, I shouldn't say guns, they have gun emplacements in the Korean or Japanese Sea, however you want to call it, depending on which country you're in, that face Japan. Next up, at number 3, China. China naval capabilities are great. We all know this. They're greatly enhancing their naval capabilities to take on Taiwan and the United States or Japan if need be. South Korea, North Korea, Russia, anybody to be the dominant force not only in the Western Pacific, Australia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, but also in the Indian Ocean going forward in the future. For amphibious warships, they have 5 brand new landing transportation docks, LPDs. They have a total of 49 landing ships. They have 272 landing crafts. So they have a great capability of landing forces. The Marine forces or ground forces, 40,000 active soldiers. And this is a combination of their Army amphibious forces and their actual Marine Corps. They have 1 mechanized infantry brigade, 5 Marine brigades, and 6 amphibious assault brigades from the Army, for a total of 12 maneuver brigades. Now, they also have 100 capable tanks. It's smaller, lighter tanks, but they're for this type of operation, very capable. They have a 100 millimeter cannon. They also have 73 hopeless tanks, light tanks, older, basically PT-76 knockoffs. They have they have 200 infantry fighting vehicles, another 450 some AAVs, 80 self-propelled field artillery. Now, their max capability at any one time, they can land almost 14,000 troops at a time. 1 division headquarters, 3 brigades, and some supporting assets. They also have the ability to land 360 tanks, 300 infantry fighting vehicles or APCs, 38 tanks for transportation or air-to-ground support, and they can use almost 100 landing crafts to do this. Like I said, this is a very capable modern force that's only going to get more powerful in the future. They're looking to be the dominant force in the Western Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and just like anything else when it comes to sea forces, China is a rising power. I shouldn't say a rising power. They are a power. They've got a great capability to be able to force project. Now, when they choose to do this and show off their might, flex their muscles, it's up to them. Coming in at number 2, NATO. This is NATO without Turkey or the United States once again. Their naval capabilities, their total amphibious warships, they've got 16 of them. Pretty large amphibious warfare fleet to be able to build expeditionary forces and tailor them however they want, almost any terrain. These are very modern ships. They do a lot of joint training not only within NATO structure itself, but also with other EU and United States and some Asian Pacific allies. They have 7 landing dock helicopters, 6 landing transportation docks, 3 dock landing ships, LSDs, for a total of 16. They have a total of 8 landing ships, 147 landing crafts, and about 7 different types of ships. The air wing consists of 12 AV-8Bs. Their Marine force consists of about 28,000 Marines. They broke up in 8 amphibious/Marine brigades. They have 20 tanks, 20 capable tanks, 320 infantry fighting vehicles/APCs, 36 AAVs, only a small ability to carry artillery with most of their configuration, 6 self-propelled artillery, 36 towed artillery. Now, their max capabilities, at any one time they could max out at about 8,500 troops, which is 2 amphibious or Marine brigades and support elements, 420 to 510 tanks, 600 to 1,100 infantry fighting vehicles, APCs, depending on the configuration. Also depending on the configuration, anywhere from 0 to 8 AAVs. The air, anywhere from 0, depending on the configuration, whether they want to have air, land, or helicopters they want to have. They can have anywhere from 0 to 10 AV-8Bs, or anywhere from 91 to 109 helicopters for both transportation and ground support or attack. The landing crafts, once again, depending on the type of landing crafts they want to use, they can have anywhere from 41 to 99 landing crafts. This is a huge force with great capabilities. Once again, technology, they do a lot of training. The only issue, language. They do use different types of equipment, but a lot of times in NATO they use the same munitions. But when you use different equipment, they still kind of use different parts and different POL and require different maintenance for training. So these things definitely hold NATO's forces back. They do have a centralized command. But overall, second best most capable expeditionary force in the world. They really don't need it unless they go to war with, I guess, Russia. They would use it they would use it in the Baltic, Black Sea, and I guess after they defeated the Northern Fleet, or to retake Norway, or retake any land like that. But it's a powerful force. Number one, the United States. As usual, the United States spends that bread. They just have a huge expeditionary force. They've got the most experienced force in the world. They've been doing nothing but training and deploying and using this in combat for the last 30, almost 40 years now. Their naval forces, they have 9 expeditionary strike groups, which they always rotate, so their soldiers, command, and forces know how to fight as an actual expeditionary strike group. They train not only with NATO, but with about 100 other nations around the world. They deploy all over the world. The amphibious warfare ships, they have a total of 34. 2 amphibious command ships, LLCs. They have 1 landing helicopter assault, LHA. 8 landing helicopter docks, LHD. 11 landing transportation docks, LPDs. 12 dock landing ships, LSDs, for a total of 34 amphibious warships that they can build their expeditionary strike groups around. They have landing ships, they have 8. They have a total almost 310 landing crafts, 4 different types. They have the ability, not only, they just have huge capabilities. Forward support capabilities. Their Marine forces, the actual Marine Corps itself is the most powerful Marine Corps in the world, largest too. They have a total for the active and reserves 224,000 soldiers, which is broke up into 3 Marine Expeditionary Headquarters, or MEFs, 4 the Marine divisions, 9 Marine infantry regiments, their brigade size. They have 3 combat air wings, brigade size, 4 field artillery brigades, 4 logistical brigades. Now, they're phasing it. They have announced that they're going to phase out their tanks. Currently, they have 447 modern tanks, M1A1s, another 594 infantry fighting vehicles, LAVs. They've got 1,200 AAVs, amphibious armored vehicles. They have another 812 towed artillery, 40 MLRs, multiple launch rocket systems. Their air wing is just huge. They pretty much got a larger air wing than all the rest of the other 9 nations in the top 10. They've got 66 advanced jet fighters, F-35 Bs and Cs, and they're buying more. Overall, they're going to buy about 300 and some. Right now, they still have 199 capable F-18Cs and Ds, and another 63 capable but old F-18 As and Bs, which is slowly phasing out for a total of 328 total jet fighters. They also have 110 ground attack fighters in the form of the AV-8Bs 2s. They have 9 electronic warfare jets. They have 65 aerial refueling tankers, which greatly expands their capabilities. They have 214 attack helicopters, AH-1s, 318 tilt rotors, the MV-22Bs. They also have 163 transportation helicopters. Like I said, depending on how they want to configure their forces, whether they want to go air first, they could max out, or they can go ground. It's completely up to them. They have great capabilities. Their max capabilities, they can carry one MEF at a time for about 29,000 troops, which is basically one division, 3 Marine brigades, 1 Marine air wing, and all the supporting elements that come with that. They can carry 720 some tanks or infantry fighting vehicles, depending on how they want to do that. 154 AAVs to land those guys. They can carry, like I said, depending on what the situation is and what the configuration is, and they can carry anywhere from 54 fighter jets to 180 fighter jets. Regardless how they do their configuration, at a minimum they can carry 110 helicopters, 36 additional 36 attack helicopters. They can also use 90 landing crafts. So this is a well-balanced force that they can just tailor towards the situation. They can go in first with air forces, pound you to death, defeat your air, help wear you down, and then they can bring in the ground troops and wait to form a beachhead, and then from there, like I said, the U.S. is by far the #1. It's a little different next week. We're going to do a poll to see what the next video is going to be about next week. The poll will close on Wednesday. The poll topics will be special forces rankings around the world, centers of war, basically logistics, capabilities, things like that, to be able to actually build weapons, support, and deploy weapons and units throughout the world. China's military 2020 and beyond, space, cyber domain, or any random minor nation or medium-sized nation. You pick, you choose. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Army Life Old Man Fat Boy style. Once again, the references I use: Jane's Military Capabilities Module, online service. It's updated weekly. Like I said, if you want to pay for a large nation individually, about $1,200 for a year subscription. If you want to pay for every nation on the planet and major organizations, $18,000 for a year subscription. But they update it weekly, and you have full access. I also used the International Institute for Strategic Studies Military Balance books. They're 2018, 2019, 2020. You can go out and buy them yourself, but like I said, they range anywhere from $500 to $700, or you can get them online for free like I did. I also used the Stockholm International Peace Resource Institute's database. I used their yearbooks, 2017, 2018, 2019. Once again, it's fairly expensive, but if you got that bread, you can spend it or you can get it online. Once again, thanks. You guys have a great day.